wondering, the actual accident itself. I did some research, and the pilot was Arizabanian, who was 50 years old. He had been with Kobe before. He spent years at the Group 3 Aviation flying lessons. In 1998, he started his flying lessons. 2001, he became a private pilot. 2007, got his commercial license and went and become a ground instructor. He worked as a pilot for Island Express, flying from Catalina to the mainland. And he was invited by Kobe to many of his awards, ceremonies and whatever. They were good friends, and this guy apparently had been around for quite some time. I just don't understand some of this. I'll let you guys get into it in just a second. But that morning, I believe the LAPD had grounded their helicopters. There was too much fog in the area. It was too close to the ground. It was dangerous. It was not conducive to driving in. So their helicopters were on the ground. Yet this guy takes off from John Wayne, and I'm still at a loss for why he didn't do. I don't know who you would talk to before that to find out whether or not the conditions are safe. What's the weather up in that neck of the woods? Do you think it's a good idea if we go, or should we postpone it for a couple hours? It seems like he would have picked somebody's brain, but again, hindsight 50-50. It's a terrible thing, and we want to talk about the actual accident first. I mean, that's horrifying. Now,
yeah,
I've heard different. Was the copter on fire when it went down, or did it hit the side of a mountain, or?
I don't know for sure. What I've heard from, and different witnesses say different things, that one said that all of a sudden they heard a low-flying helicopter, and the next thing they know, they heard the explosion and the fire. Another person said they heard a low-flying helicopter, a helicopter that was in trouble, sputtering, and then the explosion. I don't know that anybody actually could have witnessed it by eye based on the visibility
Right.
at the time. So I don't know that there's any way we're going to learn that until the NTSB and the FAA figure out exactly what happened. I think sometimes, Kobe, the irony of Kobe, who used the helicopter, to spend more time with his kids. It was the reason that he gave in interviews before, is just cruel. And I think Kobe liked to surround himself with the best. And it sounds like this pilot was among the best at being able to fly in those types of conditions. And so, I don't know. It's hard to speculate whether or not he should have. I'm not a pilot. I have read that he was trained to fly with instruments only, without the visibility being better than what it was. When you've got Kobe on your helicopter, I think if you're the best pilot, you're going to take those risks because you've taken them before. He was an instructor. He taught other pilots how to fly in those types of conditions. And so I think sometimes when you're the best at something, or considered one of the best at something, you unfortunately take those risks, and it had a catastrophic ending. So,
Corey?
Yeah, I know the helicopter that they were on, the Sikorsky, is built for, all weather, right? It's a rescue helicopter. The guy's been doing it forever.
Right.
Kobe doesn't have anyone second rate on his team. He's not going to let anyone that doesn't work as hard as him. So, I'm sure that the pilot was well prepared, and he obviously thought he knew what he was doing, and I think it's just a tragic accident,
And again, we don't know whether it was a mechanical failure, whether it was because of the visibility that it was pilot error, flying into something or hitting something. We just don't know those things yet. but even the best can, in a situation like that, it's really quick to be. It's easy to say, look, you shouldn't have been flying in those conditions, and I think that if he gets to his destination safely, this is the kind of guy that can fly in those conditions, and he's probably taken, and obviously he's clearly every other flight before he'd gotten that machine to the destination safely. So for us to speculate now, whether it was mechanical or pilot error, it typically is a combination of both things. Just a tough day and tough terrain to be flying at all. So
I don't think there's a black box. I said there's
there isn't. No.
Black box on that. I think he got a report from the Burbank airport was in contact with him. Somebody said you're flying too low. You're flying too low. And
for them, and again, from what I've heard, is not that wasn't a warning. It was just, we can't track you at an elevation, an altitude below 2,500 feet. So it was more of a warning to, if you want us to keep track of you for safety reasons, you need to fly higher. I've heard conflicting reports on that. So that it wasn't a warning, you're flying too low, you're getting too low. It was more of a look, you're getting out of our range. If you're going to fly that low, we can't communicate with you. We can't track you. We can't see you. We don't know where you are.
As good as this pilot is, and with the experience he's had, I'm sure he's probably flown in conditions similar to this.
Sure,
absolutely.
Maybe not this bad.
I'm guessing that. Well, obviously, if he's an instructor in these kinds of conditions, for pilots to fly in these kinds of conditions, he had to have had, hundreds, if not thousands of hours in conditions just like that, especially based out of Southern California, where that coastal layer is constant, especially in the summer, June gloom and the gray May.
I've heard some people say, they were going to Newbury Park, I think, Thousand Oaks, Newbury Park.
Thousand Oaks, yeah.
I've heard people say, well, why didn't they just drive? It's not that far. It's, hour and a half?
Ironically, we just had a water polo tournament the weekend before and just did that drive.
Oh, did you?
I mean, I'm very familiar with where they were.
Yeah. Again, we don't have the advantage of being able to appropriate a helicopter, and and that was something that was pretty standard for Kobe to do. Obviously, when you're sitting here and heartbroken and just crushed over it, you're thinking, oh, why couldn't they have just